Hello everyone and welcome to today's class. Today we will be looking at asymmetrical design. Asymmetrical design is a design whereby what you have, for instance, if you're working with the front block, what you have on the right side of your block is different from what you have on the left hand side. In that case, you cannot use your half block to create such designs. You have to create a full front block or a full back block according to the design you're creating. Now let's look at the diagram here. This is a dress, but Natalie has just illustrated the skirt part because she was talking about asymmetrical design here. She was actually talking about flare, but it's a good example to use in this case. And you can see this from the book I shared. It's the dress pattern designing, and this is on page 120. Please go to this page and read. She talked about flare. That's chapter 15. Okay, one thing every pattern maker should have at the back of their mind is proportions. Pattern makers should be able to work according to proportions. You need to be able to look at a diagram and know what it's been done. That's design interpretation. You need to be able to interpret designs. If you go on Pinterest, not every pattern you see on Pinterest, you'll find instructions on how to make those patterns. No, pattern makers should train themselves in such a way that once they see a picture or a diagram or a design, they will be able to know what it's been done. Okay, for instance, this is a dress. Natalie has only illustrated the lower part because she was talking about flare in this case. Looking at this diagram, this is the dress. You can see that the dart is shown. But on the pattern, she didn't show that the dart was held. The dart was not eliminated. But looking at on the finished garment, the darts were held on the finished garment. So you should be able to know something, because this is a flat in pattern making. There's something called flat drawing. So this is a flat drawing. Most flat drawing won't show darts. So that's what she has done here. But looking at the finished garments, the darts were held, like I said. Okay, now there are no instructions to follow in this case. So let's just assume, I beg your pardon. Let's just assume there are no instructions to follow. You need to be able to look at this diagram very well and design this on your pattern. And that's where proportions comes in. What you can do is, this is the hip line. What is the measurement from here to here? What could be the measurement from here to here? In other words, you can divide from this point to this point into 4 and use 1/4 of it to achieve this design. Ignore this broken line. It's just a way she showed it so that you'll be able to draw this curve perfectly. You can use it as your guide. It's a guide actually, but you don't need it in this diagram, in this design, because you cannot, there's no line going, there's no seam actually. There's no seam from here to the side. She only used it as a guide so that you'll be able to draw this curve perfectly. So you need to be able to look at the diagram and use your discretion to divide or design. And like I said, that's where proportion comes in. So you should be able to work with proportions. So if I'm to design this now, and we will be using our shaped block, because like the hairline foundation, this is 3/4, this is not to the floor, and you can see it's shaped around the knee. So we will be using, I've created my pattern. This is 3/4 and it's the hairline foundation I am using. Okay, so like I said, I will be dividing from here to here on the hip into 4, and I'm going to use one. I'm going to assume this is 1/4 of it. So let's even see. Let's say this is the CF. So it's like from your CF dividing on the right hand side, dividing from your CF to the side into 2, and you use it. You see how it works? You should be able to interpret designs. It is very, very important. Proportions and design interpretations are very important when you're creating your designs. I always tell my offline students in class that if a company employs you now as a pattern maker, they already know that, oh, we are going to be paying you as a staff, as a pattern maker. It's not their job to give you instructions to follow in creating designs. Well, all they will do is, oh, this is our design. Please create patterns according to the design. If you've not trained yourself to be able to interpret designs, if you've not trained yourself to work with proportions, then you're going to have issues. No company will give you instructions to follow when you're creating designs. Okay, but in a situation where you don't desire dirt, like it's being held here, you want to get rid of your dirt. If you're working with a stretchy fabric, you can get rid of the dirt from the side. That is, you measure the value of your dirt from the side in and connect it back to the hip on both sides. But if you're not working with a stretchy fabric and you still want to get rid of your dirt, this is very tricky. I've already mentioned it in our past classes. You can lengthen your dirt because this is the cut line. This is a cut line. And in one of the classes, I already mentioned that when your design passes through the end of a dart, you will be able to get rid of that dart. You'll be able to close it. I think we mentioned it in the CB lengthening when we're transferring the dart into the CB, into the hip line to lengthen your CB. So when a design passes through the end of a dart, you will be able to, I'll still show you more about that on that. You will be able to close that dart. And remember, this is asymmetric design. So because there's going to be a dart here. Let's just assume there's a dart here. This is your dart point. That could be also a guide where your dart is. And your dart is somewhere here. Now, if you lengthen this dart up to here and you cut on here, you'll be able to close this dart. Now, you can't stop this dart here. You can also lengthen up to here. Then you redraw your dart, you draw your dart. I'm sure some of you will be saying, oh, let me just bring this closer a bit. That lengthening this dart up to here and this one up to here, won't it affect the fit of the skirt? In this case, it will not, because once this is attached back to here, this will give fullness around here. So you lengthening this dart to this level will give a bit of fit. It won't be tight because you've already introduced fullness around here using the slash and spread method for the flare you're going to attach back. I'll say it again. Lengthening this dart up to this point and this dart up to this point in this design will not affect the shape or fit of your skirt. Even if you don't lengthen this down and you insert this has created some ease around here. So lengthening a dart and redrawing your dart, closing it, the effect will be, it should be tight. It's not going to be free because you're taking part of your measurement. Let me just draw this. If your dart was to stop here, now you've lengthened it up to this level. you've taken part of your measurement, which is supposed to give a tight effect on you. But because this insertion, which is a kind of fullness, is going to be attached back. Once it's attached back, it gives ease around here. So invariably, what you've gotten rid or what you've taken out of your measurement here will be replaced by this fullness because you're going to attach it back to this point. So in this design, it will not affect it. And lengthening of that should be done by experienced pattern makers. You need to understand the effect of whatever you're doing, whether lengthening a dart or shortening it, the effect of it on your final outcome, whether skirts, bodies, sleeve. It is very, very important. Like I said, in this situation, in this case, it will not be tight on you because you are introducing fullness into it. So invariably what you've taken out from your pattern, from your measurement kind of, is giving back because you've introduced fullness below your fitted block. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and create this design. So like I mentioned, I'm using the A-line foundation and it's 3/4. It's not to the floor. So this is what it should look like. And I've created my full front. So I said, I'm going to use this dart position. So I'm just going to lengthen it to the hip using a broken line. Okay, so can you see it looks like I've divided from the center front to the side seam, I've divided it into two, and that's what I'm going to use to create my design. Also from the design, you can see that it wasn't from the hip. It's a bit, some centimeters or inches were measured before the start of the design. I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. Can you see? This point is not from the hip level. Some measurement. Now you also need to, use your discretion to determine what you want to measure below the hip so that you can start your design. Okay, so I'm going to say let's use about 2 inches. We are working with half scale, so if it's going to be 2 inches from here, so this is our 2 inches down. Okay, also you need to know what measurement was taken from the hip to this point. From the hip to this point on both sides, they have to be equal according to the design. According to this design, when you're in other designs, they might not be equal. Remember, it's an asymmetrical design, so it's up to you. But because we are doing this design, the left side and the right sides are equal. Okay, so I'm just going to measure, we can do maybe 6 inches below the hip, or 7 inches thereabouts, or even 8. Let's do 8 inches. Remember, it has to be the same on the left hand side and on the right hand side. So we're doing 8 inches. I just want to be sure they're both equal. That's about 4. Okay, so we've done 8 inches below the hip. Then we'll connect the line, just a guideline. If you want, if you feel it's fine, you can just ignore it. Just a broken line. Every guideline should be in broken line. Okay, so this is 8 inches below the hip on both sides. So now what you have to do is draw your style line, or you can even use your knee if you want it to be on the knee on both sides. You can use it. You can use the 8 inches below or use the knee because of the curve. Because if you look at the curve, this looks like that's where the knee was shaped in. Okay, so let's go with the knee, and we're just going to draw from here. You can use your hip curve. You can use your hip curve, your French curve, and your hand. I've already told you, you should learn to draw by hand. Drawing by hand is very, very important, because not every time your scale will. You can see that the first one I drew, it's not looking curved, but the diagram shows that this is curvy, not straight. Okay, so we're going to get rid of this straight line. I'm going to show you again. See, this is curved and not straight because it goes straight. Like I said, this is the broken line is a guideline to help in case you're using a ruler to draw it. You can just place it. You can place your ruler from here to here. First, draw that curve, then you complete the curve. Okay, but because I'm used to drawing by hand, so let me just show you how to go about it with your ruler. Okay, so you might have to use just one or all of these scales. This is the small French curve. This is a big one, and this is a sheep curve. So you might, that's why I always advise every pattern maker must have all these tools. This is big, it has bigger curves, and this is small, it has a medium curve, and this is sheep curve, which is different from hip curve. So you need to have all these tools. You don't have to buy them at the same time. You buy them gradually. Okay, so this is the one I drew by hand. So I like transparent rulers. You see what you're doing. So, like I said, you might be able to use just one or all of this, and it looks like this is just perfect. Okay, so we're just going to can you see? So I'm going to erase the one I did. Okay, so this is looking perfect. I've used the big French curve. Okay, and the next thing is to draw this, to connect this to the other side. When I place this, I placed it like so. So when you're drawing the other curve, it has to be like so, the reverse of the first one. So all you have to do is, depending on how curvy you want it to be, because this scale is curved, it has different level of curves. So it depends on how curvy you want your style line to look. From the textbook, it's not that curvy. You can see it's not that curvy. So I'm going to use the almost straight part of the ruler to connect it. Okay. And that's it. That's how to draw your style line. Okay, so this was what I was saying when I said if you want to get rid of your dart, if you're using a stretchy fabric, like I said, you can take this value, the value of your dart, you measure it, on both sides, and then you connect it to your hip. Like so on both sides. Make sure your hip level is not pointing on both sides. But if you're using a woven fabric, because as pattern makers, again, you need to avoid overshaping. When you overshape your side seam, because we have curves on our side seam, you begin to have drags. When you overshape a particular point on your body that has curve or that is curved, if you overshape that part, you begin it to have drags. You're definitely going to have drags because that point on our body that is curvy, when something is curvy, it goes in. So when you overshape that point, your garment will have drags along that point. So you should always avoid overshaping. And so if you're using a woven fabric, that is a non-stretchy fabric, as I said, you can connect this to this point. You lengthen your dart to this point. You redraw it. Redrawing this dart means you've taken part of your measurement. This is fine for people with big tummy. For example, someone like me, I have a big tummy, and I already mentioned that for people with big tummy, your tummy will produce some excess below the tummy. So lengthening the dart helps you to get rid of some of those excess. It might not get rid of everything. For some people, it might get rid of everything, but for some, it won't get rid of everything. I in some of your submissions, some people were having drags below their tummy, and I explained this in when I was replying to them. So this is caused by the big tummy, just like we have fullness under our bust, and that's why we do on the bust tightening, right? So it's the same thing with the bum, and that's why we do bum shaping, to get rid of that fullness. And if you're getting rid of this fullness, especially if you don't have if you're not working with panels, you want to hold a dart, you can lengthen your dart as long as it's not going to affect, that is, because when you lengthen it, you're taking part of your measurement. As long as taking part of your measurement, which will give a tight effect, will not affect the fit of your garment. If that's what you want, some people don't like tight fitting garment. As long as you're not going to feel uncomfortable, then that's fine. Okay, so this as well, you lengthen it up to here because this is a style line, and I already mentioned that once the style line passes through the end of a dart, once we cut this, we'll be able to close this dart. And every design will tell you how to go about them. For this design, I already said it at the start of this class, of this particular asymmetrical design class. For this won't cause a tight, or won't give you a tight effect, because what you're going to do below here is to create fullness, which will invariably make up for the tightness lengthening of this dart might cause. So if you're using a woven fabric for this, it's fine. You can lengthen your dart like so. It means you've taken part of your measurement. But again, the design you're about to create will introduce fullness around here. So what you've lost here in this dart will be given back to the dart, because this is you're creating fullness around here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and cut. We'll go ahead with this. If you're using stretchy fabric, you can just cut the value of your dart, like I already mentioned. Stretchy fabrics are very forgiving. They hide your mistakes and all of that. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this. Okay, so I have separated my pattern into two. I've separated my block into two patterns. Okay, don't forget to draw your grain lines. Your CF can be your guide. So draw your straight grain. If this is going to be cut on the straight grain, obviously it's going to be, if you cut this on the true bias, you're going to have drags. So it's going to defeat what you're trying to achieve. So it's going to be straight grain. These can be placed on the straight grain of your fabric or on the bias. Please read this page. The reason you can place this on the bias is because you want to create flare effects. Okay, so now, like I said, we're going to close this dart. You see that you'll be able to close it. You close it. Like so. And the second one as well. When you're closing your dart, make sure you crease it or crease them first. It's easier when you crease them. And that's it. We're done with the upper part. For the lower part, like as you can see in the diagram, you just go with your slash and spread method. Fold them into the number of your number of folds you want. I want 6. And according to your desired width, please refer to your flare class. Refer to your flare class, and basically that's it for this design. I'll be showing you a second design. Please don't forget to always label your blocks. Number them if you have to number them. As long as you're cutting a block into several pieces, you have to label and number them. Okay, then you slash and spread according to your desired hem width. Don't forget also to add your seam allowance on both ends. You had your 0.5 or quarter. If you can work with quarter, quarter is advisable, but if you cannot, you had 0.5, then you trim it out once you're done. You had your 0.5 to bring them back together, because you're going to put this back where you cut it out from. You've only separated them because you wanted to manipulate, and once you're done with your manipulation, you insert it back. And when inserting it back, you need to add your seam allowance. If you don't add your seam allowance and you try to fix it back, you're shortening the length of your garment, and it's not going to work. Okay, now let's move to the second example. Okay, welcome back. Here is the second example. Looking at this design, when you're about to create a design, you don't rush into designing. You have to study design first. See how you're going to work with the dart. I mentioned earlier on that you can use your dart. I mentioned this in the bodies class, I think. You can use your dart as dart. You can use them as pleat. You can turn your dart to fullness. And that's what it's been done on this skirt. This is a straight skirt. And if I'm going to interpret this, I'll say this is the position of the dart on this side. Okay, it's a panel. The dart was taken down. Right. This also looks like you can flip this. It looks like there's a straight skirt underneath. There's a split. There's a full front skirt underneath, and this was just on top of it, which it looks like you can lift this up. Judging by the hem, you can see they are not those are the things you need to look at when designing. They are not on the same level. It looks like I can use my hand to lift this up. Okay, whether you're joining these panels together or you want it to look like an overlap or a wrap, the process is still the same. Okay, so now if you want this to be just an overlap, it's fine. It means that you have a full front skirt in underneath, and it's only this overlap that we're going to drape like so. Okay, even the underneath front skirt is an asymmetrical design. The process, like I said, is the same. So I'm just going to be illustrating this. Also, the zipper is on the side, so which means your center back or your center back can be placed on the fold of the fabric as well. Okay, we'll be using our straight block since it's a straight skirt. You always have to know which of the blocks to use when you see a design. Okay, so we're going to use the point of the dart here as well, like we did in the first example. We're going to roll it down. Okay. Also, you need to know what this measurement is. Like I did in the first example, we use the knee level, but if you don't want to use the knee level, you can work it out. Working with proportions, like I said, on both sides, whatever you decide to use must be the same thing on both sides. Also, the depth here must also be decided. Okay, and how to deal with the dart is very, very important. Okay, for this class, let's just use 3 inches down the waist. So I'm going to point out 3 inches on both sides. Make sure you're always accurate. 3 inches on both sides. You can use your measuring tape if you want. Let me just be sure we're okay. Let's use 2 inches. Okay, I've used 2 inches below. Remember, this is it's a half scale